how this might screw up a little kid's brain, how this might be really confusing to them. Hello, welcome to my channel, Outspoken Samantha. If you are new here, welcome. Be sure to hit that subscribe button. If you're returning, welcome back. Thank you so much for the support. On my channel, I like to give my opinion perspective on things that are happening today, things that I think actually matter to everyday people, especially those of us trying to raise kids in the insanity known as today's society. I do like to talk about politics and current events and things that are happening in the world, and my perspective does tend to be more on the conservative side of things. Please like this video, leave a comment below, and also share it with others. Also, be sure you are subscribed to my channel. Help me to grow this channel so I can hopefully reach more people that value logic, reason, and sanity. Also, be sure to find me on Rumble under Outspoken Samantha in the event that YouTube decides I have violated their community standards and chooses to kick me off their platform forever. That being said, let's get into today's topic. All right, guys, so we know our children are being groomed. We know this. All sane people know this as well. And it's really frustrating. I know that you all have felt this, trying to talk about this issue, and you're trying to say exactly what you mean by grooming, whether it be, sexual grooming or psychological grooming, and who's doing it and who's not doing it. And no matter how many times you repeat yourself and say exactly what you mean by those things, there's this group of people that are pretending that you're not talking at all or that you haven't said anything, and they're spreading a message, putting words in your mouth essentially, and accusing you of saying things or making points that you're not even saying or making. And it's so divisive and it's so unhelpful, and it's dangerous because it creates a situation where we can't solve any problems, where we really can't address the actual issue, because we're constantly having to say, that's not what I'm saying, that's not what I mean, that's not who I'm pointing to, that's not who I'm referring to. And I feel like there's so much time and energy spent on that piece of it where it's impossible to have a conversation. And I know most of us are like, I can't even believe that we have to have these conversations. I think pretty much any video I do on this or anytime I talk about it, I'm always just going to be absolutely astounded that we even have to have these conversations, that we even have to make this point, that I have to have a conversation with other grown adults about why this stuff is so dangerous to kids, why it's so harmful to them, why it's inappropriate, because like 5 minutes ago, we all agreed that this was inappropriate for kids. So I don't know how these people were so easily influenced and manipulated into believing that suddenly all of the things that we agreed on that were not okay for kids are suddenly just totally fine, fair game, it's not harmful, they're going to be just fine. So I don't get it. So it can just really, really make you feel like you're losing your mind. But like I said, I feel like, well, I don't know if I said it or not. In my brain I did. But, we focus a lot on this whole idea of sexual grooming and, what that looks like between adults and kids and what those behaviors look like. So just a little bit about me. I am completely obsessed with true crime. Like, I love true crime. At the end of the day, when I'm kind of over reading all of the stories and all of the catastrophes that are happening in the country and across the world and all the political events and all the bickering and, just all of the things that are happening, at the end of the day, sometimes I just like to wind down and watch some true crime. And maybe that's a little bit weird, but it's just, I love true crime podcasts and YouTube channels, and I find the stories so interesting. And sometimes my husband's like, should I be concerned about your interest in this stuff? And I think a lot of the reason that I find it so interesting is because, the mindset that you have to be in to do some of the things that these people do, to harm others in the way that they harm them, or to come up with the evil and violent acts that they carry out. It just blows my mind because it's so completely far away, foreign to how my brain works and probably how most people's brains works. That's just not how the majority of the population is wired. So I find it just fascinating, like psychologically, how you get to that place. And I've also seen a lot of true crime cases involving children. or adults that have preyed on children, and kind of, how that whole situation generally plays out. And there's a lot of similar behavior between, a lot of these cases and the adults that carried them out, and the crimes that they carried out, and the acts against kids that they carried out. A lot of similar patterns of behavior between all of them. And, it starts with gaining access to kids, whether it be through their job or through a relationship or through a school or whatever it may be. They find a way to gain access to children. And then they gain the trust of that child or of those kids by taking an interest in the things that they're interested in, whether it be taking them to the park or reading them a story or buying them a gift that they like, or even giving them money. They gain trust from that child by getting involved in their world in some way. And all of these things are generally accompanied by positive, confidence-building talk, reassuring talk, like, lifting that child up in some way, or, of course, having a very positive and welcoming attitude around them, because, that's kind of how kids work. They gravitate towards people that are friendly and kind to them, and just nice and welcoming in some way. So once that trust is gained and that child truly believes that that adult would never harm them, that's when an adult can go in and essentially get whatever it is that they want, whether it be to physically or psychologically abuse them, or, whatever the case may be, whatever their agenda is. They gain the trust of that child. And since this adult has been so kind to them and given them gifts and taken an interest in the things that they're interested in, this child is going to think that, there's no way that this adult would hurt me. They've been so nice to me, so this whole thing must be okay. Those lines and boundaries between the adult and the child have been blurred or completely obliterated in a lot of ways. And now this child has no idea at this point what is right or wrong. They don't feel like they can push that person away or say no to them, or, tell them to stop or whatever it is. Also, this person is bigger and stronger with them and has a greater understanding of the world and how relationships work in general. And this child is going to think, well, they know more. So, this must be normal. This must be okay. And, this is just kind of the many ways that child predators work to gain the trust and gain access to kids, and break down those barriers and break down those lines of defense, and to also create the illusion of consent from that child. They'll say, well, the child said yes, or the child didn't say no, or didn't stop me, or didn't tell me to stop, or didn't back away from me physically. So that is a predator's idea of consent. Breaking down all of those barriers, confusing the child, confusing them about what's right and wrong. And then, the child doesn't feel like they can say no, or that they have the power to say no. And that is consent to them. So again, is this sounding familiar at all to some of the things and some of the behaviors that we are seeing now? We can see everywhere where grown adults are breaking down those barriers, whether it be a family-friendly drag queen show, or, a teacher that wants to talk about sexuality with kids, or, some of the really inappropriate conversations that we have seen come from teachers between themselves and their students that they're just completely open about. And there's so many ways that these barriers are being broken down. And now kids they're confused. They have no idea what they've been exposed to. For one thing, all they know is that the trusted adults around them are telling them that it's okay. So their conscience might be telling them that it's not okay, and their gut instinct might be, sending up all the red flags and telling them to stop the situation, or that it's not comfortable, or it's not something they want to be a part of. But they don't say no, or they don't tell the adults or their parents or the teachers, or whoever it is around them that this isn't okay, that they don't want to be a part of it, because they trust them. They trust what is happening because their parents are saying it's okay, or because their teachers are saying it's okay. And then, they think to themselves, my gut instincts must be wrong. My conscience must be wrong. And that is such a dangerous place to put a child in, is to not trust their gut instincts, and not trust their conscience, and not trust their inner compass saying, pointing, directing them, that would otherwise direct them away from harm, and not trusting that, not being able to trust it. So this predatory movement has created this situation where kids truly have no idea how to recognize their own conscience or how to stand up for themselves. And this is what, this movement is calling consent now. But this is not, it's not just the physical grooming. It's not just sexual grooming. I know that that's something that we focus on a lot, but it's really not just about that. We are seeing a lot more psychological grooming on a wide scale, because it is a lot easier to psychologically groom a group on a large scale than it is to physically groom a child or to physically groom anybody, because in that physical grooming, you need that one-on-one contact. You need, to spend time building up that relationship, to get that child to believe that relationship or those interactions are okay. Whereas when it comes to psychological grooming, it's a lot easier to do that on a wide scale, whether it be through TV shows and programming and cartoons and entertainment and theme parks and paraphernalia and books and toys and anything else that kids gravitate towards. It is so much easier to psychologically groom kids to think that these things are okay when you want them to adopt and to live by a particular ideology than it is, again, to have that physical influence. So yesterday, a story broke about American Girl releasing a book called A Smart Girl's Guide, Body Image, which is marketed to girls ages 3 to 12. 3 to 12. Can you imagine a little 3-year-old being influenced by this material? And it encourages them to talk to their doctor about questions they have about their body and their gender identity, and all of the messages that this book sends them and implants into their conscience, and implants into their belief system, tells them to talk to their doctor about it, tells them to talk to a trusted adult outside of their parents, away from their parents. So one of the passages in this book says, at first, you and the doctor might talk about wearing the clothes and using the pronouns like he, she, or they that make you feel like most like the true you. If you haven't gone through puberty yet, the doctor might offer medicine to delay your body's changes, giving you more time to think about your gender identity. Close quote. First, this book markets puberty blockers to children like they're taking a children's Tylenol or something. And what do kids know about medicine? They know that medicine makes them feel better, that medicine improves things, that medicine is a good thing, that it might taste disgusting, but it has a positive outcome generally. So that medicine that helps me become my true self is probably a good thing, right? And then they probably think that medicine could turn them into a unicorn if they really wanted to, because it's medicine that helps them choose who they want to be, right? And can you see how this might screw up a little kid's brain? How this might be really confusing to them? But that's the goal, isn't it? That's the agenda. That's what we're going for. We want kids to be confused, because confused kids are more easily manipulated and easier to influence. So anyway, this is psychological and mental grooming. It's the start down a path to completely alter the natural progression and exploration of who they are and encourage them down a completely and totally unnatural path where that identity might include medicine or drugs, which have a high likelihood of turning into a drug dependency, because this identity path is not natural. So they will need drugs and, medical treatment for the rest of their lives to maintain it. It's not possible for them to maintain it in a natural manner without intervention of any kind. So this book also points the girls to resources and organizations that can help them if they don't have an adult they can trust. The book has a lot of different messages to it. I will link an article in the description box, but it encourages girls to think about if the bathrooms that they're currently using or that they gravitate towards truly make them feel good or comfortable. And it compares women, minorities, and disabled people and parts of our history regarding our right or their right to use public bathrooms to transgender and non-binary people who are now fighting for their right to use whatever bathroom they feel that they align with. Again, psychological grooming. There's no other way to explain it or to categorize it when you are putting this kind of thing in front of 3-year-old little girls. And girls are the ones that are being affected by this ideology by far more than any other group, and it's not even close. So we're now supposed to impose this idea on toddler girls that they were born in the wrong body. So that this idea that if they have a friend that likes to wear princess dresses and her favorite color is pink, that if they themselves don't like those things, that perhaps they need this medicine to fix it. And that their parents are not necessarily the ones that they need to talk to about this medicine, right? That they can talk to any grown adult about it, right? That those barriers and those boundaries where, that might guide them towards the trusted parental figure in their life that is more than likely their parent, is being broken down and saying that you don't need to talk to your parents about this. You can talk to every grown adult is safe. Any grown adult is fine. So, we're breaking down those barriers already. Kids do not naturally have concerns about their gender identity on a wide scale. Yes, there are cases of legitimate gender dysphoria. There are people that are born with both male and female reproductive organs, or females that produce a higher level of testosterone than most other females. And, of course there are these cases. No one is denying that, but that is not what we're talking about here. On a wide scale, generally across the board, kids at that age do not have questions about their gender identity. It's not something they're thinking about because they're playing with the toys that they want to play with. They are making friends with anybody who's going to play tag with them. They're not weighed down by these questions because at their stage in development as a child at such a young age, this is just not something that is going to be a concern to them. It doesn't naturally pop up in their psyche. My daughter is almost 7 years old. I have never forced her to play with a certain kind of toy or to be interested in certain kinds of things. I've introduced her to different activities to see what her interest level is. I have purchased toys for her that I thought she might like, and some she does and some she doesn't. But again, I've told you before, after having 2 boys, I was convinced that if I ever had a girl, she was just going to be a rough and tumble girl because she's going to want to do whatever her brothers do. And in some cases that has been the case. In other ways, she is definitely girly girl. And that has all been her. That has been what makes her happy. I have just kind of, this idea, all these transgender activists say that, we need to let people explore their identity. We need kids to explore their identity freely. What they claim to want is the opposite of what they're doing, because I myself as a parent, I'm not pushing an ideology on them. I am not introducing the idea to them that they can, pick one of 900 genders to associate with or to identify with. I am literally letting them gravitate towards the things that they want to without the influence of gender ideology, without confusing them with the idea that they were potentially born in the wrong body, because they will think about that if I tell them they need to think about that. But because I haven't, they haven't. It's never been a question. And of course I know that, leftist transgender activists would say, well, yeah, that's because your daughter hasn't questioned it because she's not transgender. We're only talking about the kids that are transgender. Or they would say that I'm forcing societal norms on her by not teaching her that naturally growing in her own body is optional, or because I'm not giving her the chance to be something other than what she is. So when you leave kids alone and let them explore their identity in the natural way, they naturally will explore the things that they're interested in, and they will be allowed to do so. And they're able to do so with the guidance of their parents in a loving way, in an age-appropriate way, where they can be healthy and happy with boundaries that keep them safe, that keep them truly safe, drug-free, surgery-free, without, all of these psychological gymnastics that's just twisting their brains into knots. You're letting them naturally progress into who they are, letting them explore their talents, letting them explore their interests. But that's not what books like this is going to do. Putting this in front of your child between the ages of 3 and 12 at a time when they are so impressionable and so young is going to introduce questions to them that they wouldn't have had otherwise. And, it's going to present them with ideas that they wouldn't have had otherwise, that they wouldn't have even known to consider. And I know this because those of us that aren't allowing our kids to grow up in this way, exposed to gender ideology, are seeing the natural progression of our children, whereas families who do introduce this stuff to their kids at a young age, you'll have a family that has three queer kids in the same family, or a mom that's so excited because 2 of her 3 kids are transgender, or you'll have a teacher, a leftist activist teacher who has, pride flags from floor to ceiling, and their pronouns are they, and they're constantly talking about, gender identity and allowing kids to explore, being something other than what they are. The people that actually put this material in front of kids, you'll have a teacher that says, 22 of my 28 kids came out to me. And it's totally natural, totally uninfluenced. They totally came to these conclusions by themselves. I had nothing to do with it. Never mind the pride flags and the parades and the books and the stories and the cartoons and, all of the things that I have, floor to ceiling in my classroom. These kids, it's totally natural. It just happens to be that, those of us who don't put those things in front of our kids, that our kids just happen to not be influenced by it in any way. It's just not a natural thing. So, but when I say that this thing is influencing girls on a much larger scale, and it's not even close, child mastectomies have gone up 400% in the last 2 years. Child mastectomies. These are children removing their perfectly healthy breasts. And 70 to 80% of the LGBTQIARSV++ apostrophe ampersand community are biological girls. And, I have to say, why wouldn't girls want to change who they are? Why wouldn't they want to take on a completely different identity when they are constantly hearing the messages that being born in a female body is bad, that having your period is scary, that carrying a baby is oppressive, and that your uterus is a burden. Not to mention the onslaught of incidents where biological males are taking over the cosmetics industry and and women's clothing ads and sports and events and awards and scholarships. That, they're seeing this constant messaging that if someone is born in a male body and wants to invade your space as a biological female, they have the right to do so. And if you, as a biological female, say anything about it, you could lose everything. It's despicable because there are no positive messages in the public sphere that are being sent to girls to say that being a girl is a beautiful thing, that being a woman is an honor, that being a mother is an amazing and incredible accomplishment that every single woman should be proud of. Unless you are a parent that is instilling those messages into your girl every single day and sending that message to her and hugging her and telling her how beautiful she is as a woman, as a girl, as a female, made as a daughter of God, she's going to go out into the world and she's going to be bombarded with messages about how being a biological female is a bad thing, that you need to change it, that you're going to feel better if you remove the parts of your body that make you a female, that make you a woman. And shame on American Girl for putting this message in their books. Shame on you. I hope every single person that has purchased your materials puts them in a bonfire and never purchase it from you again. How dare you send this message to our girls? How dare you contribute to the crippling of female psychology and womanhood and all of the things that make being a woman beautiful? Leave a comment below. Let me know your thoughts on this. I hope that all of you are hugging your girls, and your boys, telling them how wonderful they are every single day. I mean, ever since my daughter was little, I mean, you know, this gender ideology thing hasn't been, it's really exploded over the last few years, and so it never occurred to me that this would be significant. But every day I have called my daughter my beautiful girl, my angel. I've told her how wonderful and amazing she is just every single day, just because I want her to be a confident person and feel secure in coming to me with anything, and that I truly think that she is just an amazing human being. And I say that to my boys too. I tell them how wonderful and amazing they are, and we explore their talents and who they are as people and the things that they're interested in. And I tell them every single day that they're just amazing, how they were created, and they are so secure in who they are because they have received those messages every single day from myself and their dad, just reminding them how amazing they are the way that they were created. And I'm not forcing anything on them. I'm not. I am just reminding them that they are unique in who they are, and that they should absolutely shine bright and stand out in this world, especially as rays of light, because this world needs it. So anyway, let me know your thoughts. Leave a comment below. Please like this video, and please be sure that you are subscribed. And you know, I will try to make more videos. Life is just crazy. It's Christmas. It's the holidays. So I will do my best, but I appreciate your support of my channel. I'll see you in the next one. Bye.